we're talking big news. We're talking big news. The biggest news, of course, was AJ Lee making her long-awaited return 10 years in the making back into the WWE. She appeared on Friday night SmackDown, hinting a matchup at WrestlePalooza. Of course, if you follow the reports, if you follow the streams, you knew that we kind of have an inkling of where they were going with this storyline. But obviously, AJ Lee comes out here Monday Night Raw and wants to reintroduce herself to the fans that maybe have been gone for a decade, or perhaps to the new fans who weren't around back in 2015, giving them a chance to meet AJ Lee for the first time. She introduces herself, of course, by her name, AJ Lee, and talks about how she is, and I love this line, how she is your favorite wrestler's favorite wrestler. You look across the women's division today, and it would be very difficult to not find someone that is taking influence or was inspired, motivated by AJ Lee. You can name a couple people like Roxanne Perez, Lyra Valkyria, Bayley, just to name a few. Liv Morgan. You can see little bits of AJ Lee in all of their characters, in all of their ring move set. So for her to go ahead and acknowledge that with the same bravado, the same charisma, confidence that her husband CM Punk maintains throughout all his promos, it was endearing. I loved hearing AJ Lee's voice for like the first time in 10 years on a WWE television show. Seeing her back in her prime, back in her element, was definitely a welcome sight. She talked about, hey, I was gone for 10 years, and I'm sorry, guys. But she had to go ahead and heal. She had her own mental health journey. She had thought that she had accomplished everything that she could have accomplished in her WWE career. Keep in mind, she was on the main roster for not even 4 years. I mean, she jumped in on the main roster in 2011 and then left in 2015. Of course, she was in NXT for 2010, but we don't talk about that version of NXT. And she talks about how she thought that she accomplished everything in her dreams. You know, she won the Divas Championship. She competed at WrestleMania. She was a part of a main program that was with the likes of Kane, Daniel Bryan, and her now husband CM Punk. Life was good for the WWE superstar AJ Lee. But now, fast forward 10 years, there are so much things to do. She's never competed in a Royal Rumble, in a ladder match, in an Elimination Chamber. She's never won the Women's World Championship, the WWE Women's Championship, the Intercontinental Championship. There are so many things left for her to do. The possibilities are endless. And we know that at WrestlePalooza, it will be AJ Lee, CM Punk versus Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch. The matchup that I think I'm looking forward to the most, just because of the ramifications, just because of what it has meant over the last 10 years for all parties involved. This matchup, I'm hoping, delivers, because the hype for me is at an all-time high. That's for now. That's what's going on currently. I have to ask the question, what is next for AJ Lee? I know this is the story at hand, but apparently, if you read the reports, and if not, hey, that's why I'm here. I try to help you out, stay up to date with all things pro wrestling. But apparently, the rumors, the speculation is that she has signed a full-time deal. That's huge. AJ Lee does not have to compete full-time. She doesn't have to. Actress, writer, she doesn't have to compete at a full-time basis, but she is. So the question is, who is the dream opponent? I can already see the matches that could be lined up for AJ Lee. First off, of course, you have to talk about Roxanne Perez, the unofficial adoptive daughter of CM Punk and AJ Lee. Roxanne Perez, who has skyrocketed since joining NXT, now into the main roster, providing some of the best matches in NXT and showing a lot of promise on the main roster as a part of the Judgment Day. Roxanne Perez versus AJ Lee. The story's already there. You've seen the pictures. If you haven't seen the pictures, man, Roxanne Perez, as a very young WWE fan, would go to the events, take pictures with AJ Lee, even dress up as AJ Lee for some cosplay or for Halloween or whatever the case may be. The story already writes itself. It could be something similar to what happened with CM Punk. Roxanne Perez could approach AJ Lee saying, you left for 10 years without a trace. You abandoned us. And now here I am on the WWE's main roster, proving that I am the prodigy, proving that I am the best, that I'm next up, and now you want to come back. Now you want to come back to take away my shine. No, no. The story writes itself. Roxanne Perez versus AJ Lee, that's big money to me, at least. And I feel like a lot of diehard wrestling fans would love to see that. And if people who aren't diehard wrestling fans, or maybe a casual viewer, the story itself, I feel like, is enough to hook them in. Aside from that, I mean, Lyra Valkyria, who has been lighting it up in the last couple of months. I think the matchup there, again, styles make fights, and I feel like that's a good matchup there between the two of them. Nikki Bella, I know some people have their reservations about her, but again, they have history with one another. Back all the way, 2014, when AJ Lee lost her championship to Nikki Bella, and Nikki Bella had beat the record for longest reigning Divas champion, something that was held by AJ Lee. I think the match is there, for sure. I would love to see her against Bayley, a fellow NXT alumnus, and revisit that mentor-protege relationship that they had way back when. In AJ Lee's last matchup, all the way back in March of 2015, she wore a Bayley t-shirt, putting over Bayley as the potential one that's next up. And now to see where Bayley's at, that's a great matchup in itself as well. I would love to see that matchup. There's other matchups as well. Of course, we haven't talked about Naomi. The history there all the way back to NXT. I'd love to see her, and call me crazy, I would love to see her versus Nia Jax, just because of the size differential, and I feel like there's a great David versus Goliath type of a story that's there. Maybe keep it brief, because I don't think I want to see AJ suffer an injury, but there's a story there. But we talk about Becky Lynch. Becky Lynch makes perfect sense to have a one-on-one matchup, maybe. AJ's the one to dethrone her as the IC champion. I would love to see that. But as of right now, WrestlePalooza, mixed tag, Punk and AJ, Seth and Becky, should be a hell of a matchup. Has been a hell of a story thus far. I'd love to hear from you guys in the chat as to what you think about that potential matchup, all the potential matchups when it comes to AJ Lee's latest run in the WWE.